What if I told you the world you see around you isn't random? That every event, every reaction, every repeated pattern in your life is actually a reflection of the story you're telling yourself on repeat. According to Neville Goddard, the world is not something happening to you, but something happening through you. He said, the world is a mirror, forever reflecting what you are doing within yourself. This idea at first may seem too simple or too uncomfortable, but if you sit with it, you'll realize it holds the key to everything. You see, most people don't pay attention to their inner conversations, but those quiet, repetitive thoughts shape the fabric of our reality. Your assumptions, your self-image, the expectations you carry without even realizing they are the script. And the outer world, it's the screen on which that script gets projected. Your inner dialogue is not just a private monologue, it's a creative force. If you believe that people don't respect you, you'll find yourself in situations where you feel overlooked. If you expect failure, you'll find doors closed. But flip that internal story, and slowly but surely the mirror shifts. Neville emphasized this with what he called the mental diet. Just as your physical health depends on what you eat, your mental and emotional reality depends on what you feed your mind. If your self-talk is filled with worry, lack, and fear, life will echo those tones. But if you begin to speak to yourself with love, confidence, and assurance, even when nothing on the outside seems to justify it, you'll start seeing the world respond in new ways. That's not magic. That's principle. Your self-concept is the root of all manifestation. If you think of yourself as someone who is unlucky, who always gets the short end of the stick, that identity will keep showing up in every area of your life. It's not the world that needs to change. It's the story you're carrying about yourself. The moment you begin to shift how you see yourself, you shift how the world sees you. People begin treating you differently. New opportunities appear, problems dissolve without effort. But none of it begins without that internal shift. Let's break this down into daily life. If you're constantly thinking, people never choose me, then you'll notice rejection. Even when it isn't there, you might get invited somewhere and still feel excluded. But if you carry the story, I am always chosen, I am always welcome, the mirror begins to reflect that assumption, and you'll feel it in your body, in your interactions, in the peace that replaces insecurity. Now, here's the real reason most people stay stuck. They don't realize they're telling the same story every day. It's running on autopilot. They affirm things they don't want without knowing it. They speak lack and then wonder why abundance doesn't show up. Neville said, to change your life, you must change your assumptions. And assumptions live in the story you tell. Not once, but constantly. One of Neville's most powerful tools for rewriting the story is the technique of revision. This is where you mentally go back to a past event and rewrite it the way you wish it had gone. Why does that matter? Because your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly imagined. When you revise an old memory, you rewrite the emotional story you've attached to it. And in doing so, you shift what shows up in the future. It's not about denial, it's about creative ownership. Imagination, Neville taught, is the key to everything. He even said imagination is God. When used consciously, your imagination becomes the pen with which you write your inner story. And whatever you dwell on in imagination, especially with emotion, becomes your reality. This is why he urged his students to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Don't just hope for the outcome. Live from the state where it's already done. When you do this long enough, the world has no choice but to catch up. But even with imagination, there's something deeper at play: identity. If you say you want success but still see yourself as someone who always fails, that inner conflict will delay the outcome. The mirror doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are being. So align your identity with your desired outcome. Don't wait to become successful. Assume it. Don't wait to be loved. Embody it. Don't wait for evidence. Live from the end, and the evidence will appear. This brings us to Neville's most challenging idea: reality follows your state, not your wish. The mistake many people make is to wait for confirmation. They say, I'll believe I'm loved when someone loves me, or I'll feel successful when I see the money. But the mirror doesn't work that way. You must feel it first. And when you do, consistently and honestly, your world shifts. Not instantly, always, but faithfully. So here's the real challenge. Are you willing to let go of the old story, the one filled with waiting, with doubt, with pain? Are you willing to tell a new story, even if nothing around you has changed yet? Because if you are, then everything is possible. You don't need to beg the world for change. You need to embody the version of you who already lives the change. The world mirrors back what you believe is true about yourself. That's the secret. That's the power. That's the key Neville wanted you to remember. Have you ever noticed how your mood can change how people treat you, even if nothing else changes? That's not coincidence. That's reflection. Neville Goddard emphasized again and again. The outer world is not reacting to you. It's reflecting you. The thoughts you carry, the beliefs you repeat, the emotional atmosphere you live in. All of that gets mirrored back. It's like standing in front of a mirror and frowning, then expecting the mirror to smile first. We do this all the time without realizing it. We feel insecure and then expect the world to show us confidence. We feel abandoned inside and hope others will convince us we're loved. But it never starts on the outside. It starts within. The world can only show you what you believe to be true over and over again. And this is where things get powerful. If you want your circumstances to shift, you don't need to beg. You don't need to chase. You need to shift your assumptions. Change the inner image, and the reflection must follow. This isn't wishful thinking. It's alignment. Neville said, man's chief delusion is his conviction that there are causes other than his own state of consciousness. Let that sink in. There is no cause outside of you. You are the cause. And the moment you claim that, you stop blaming. You stop waiting. You stop feeling powerless. You realize, I am the one who tells the story and I can change the story. Think about the last time you were alone with your thoughts. What were you saying to yourself? Were you building yourself up? Or were you tearing yourself down? Were you imagining victory or quietly rehearsing failure? Neville called these inner conversations the most important dialogue you'll ever have, because they set the tone of your life. The world doesn't respond to your loudest goals. It responds to your quietest assumptions. You might say you want love, but if your inner talk is filled with unworthiness, the world will echo that. You might dream of abundance, but if you constantly rehearse lack in your thoughts, that's the vibration you live in. The secret isn't more effort, it's more awareness. Watch how you speak to yourself. Are your words aligned with who you want to become, or are they dragging you back into an old version of yourself? Neville urged us to imagine ourselves into new states. He said, dare to believe in the reality of your assumption, and watch the world play its part relative to its fulfillment. So the key is not forcing the world to change, but living in the assumption that it already has. And this happens most powerfully when no one else is watching. It happens in silence, in the morning when you wake up, at night before you sleep, in those in-between moments when your mind drifts. What story are you repeating? Because the mirror never lies. It shows you not what you hope for, but what you assume. There's a quiet force shaping your life moment by moment. It's not action, it's not hustle, it's not struggle, it's assumption. Neville Goddard called it the creative power behind all things. Not just assuming a thing might happen, but assuming it already has. This is where most people get stuck. They try to change their lives with willpower while still carrying the same internal story. They affirm success, but walk around feeling like failures. They hope for love, but assume abandonment. And the world, being a mirror, reflects that assumption, not the words. Neville said, assumptions, if persisted in, harden into fact. That means your assumptions will not stay invisible forever. They will crystallize, they will take shape, they will become people, places, events, and outcomes. The moment you realize this, you no longer wait for external proof, you become the proof. You walk as the person who already has what they desire. You assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not later but now. And when that assumption becomes natural, reality bends to match it, not through force, but through spiritual law. You don't have to control how things unfold. You only have to guard your assumption. That's the story the mirror reflects. That's the energy the world answers. So how do you actually live this? How do you stop reacting to the current world and start reshaping it? Neville gave us a method so simple that most overlook it. Live from the end. Don't live toward your goal. Live from it. Imagine already being the person you desire to be. Feel what it's like to wake up with the success already done. Move through your day from that place, not with fake confidence, but with assumed identity. He said, to be transformed, the whole basis of your thoughts must change. That means you can't bring the old self into the new reality. You must walk, talk, think, and feel from the version of you who already has it. Not because the world told you it's real, but because you've decided it's real within. If you want to be wealthy, don't wait for a number to show up in your bank account. Begin thinking and feeling like someone who has more than enough. If you want love, don't wait to be chosen. Be someone who deeply knows they are already loved and worthy. When you live from that state, not toward it, life mirrors it. People respond. Situations change. Things shift with no logical explanation. This is not acting. It's alignment. It's embodying the energy of your desired life until the mirror has no choice but to reflect what you've become. Every moment, whether you realize it or not, you're casting a vote for the reality you're living in. Not with your actions, but with your assumptions. These aren't loud, obvious declarations. They're quiet, invisible, subtle, yet they carry more power than effort ever could. You assume you're not enough, and the world proves you right. You assume things always work out for you, and somehow they do. This is the silent dialogue between you and life, the echo chamber that repeats only what you believe deep down. Most people live in a loop. They look at their current life, form beliefs based on it, and then reinforce those beliefs by thinking and acting accordingly. But Neville taught something revolutionary. He said, break the loop. Don't let the present define your thinking. Let your chosen future do that. That's the essence of living from the end. You don't wait for life to give you evidence. You bring the evidence with you in how you carry yourself, how you think, how you feel. It's not pretending. It's alignment. You're not faking it. You're stepping into what's already yours in potential form. You're choosing to walk in the story that empowers you instead of the one that limits you. And when this becomes your new inner world, reality has no choice but to reflect it, because the mirror doesn't lie. It's faithful. It gives you what you're consistently holding within. Neville was clear. Your imagination is not separate from reality. It is the seed of it. Whatever you dare to assume as true, consistently and with emotion, must find its reflection in your world. That's why he said the feeling of the wish fulfilled is key. Not just seeing your desire as a distant possibility, but entering into it mentally and emotionally, feeling the relief, the joy, the gratitude of already having it. That inner feeling becomes your new home. And when you live in that inner state persistently, the world eventually comes knocking, matching the energy you've been dwelling in all along. It may not happen instantly, but it happens faithfully. The world bends to meet your new vibration, not out of magic, but because it always reflects what you carry inside. Now think about your daily thoughts. Think about the conversations you're having with yourself. When no one is around, are you building a version of you that is already blessed, loved, successful? Or are you rehearsing the old story, the one where you're still waiting, still lacking, still doubting, because whichever story you invest in most deeply becomes your reality. And this is where most people miss the point. They say affirmations in the morning, but carry self-doubt all day. They visualize once, but then dwell in fear. They say they want change, but don't shift the identity they live from. That's not persistence. That's inner conflict. And life can only mirror what's dominant, not what's occasional. Neville always emphasized persistence in assumption. To assume means to take something as already real without needing evidence. To persist means to return to that feeling again and again, even when nothing seems to be changing yet. That's real faith. That's the kind of belief that bends the world. You don't need to fight the current reality. You don't need to argue with your circumstances. Just leave them behind mentally. Dwell in the end. Move in your imagination to the place where the desire is already fulfilled. Not once, not occasionally, but constantly, until it becomes more real to you than the lack you once knew. And here's the beauty. When you do this, you start acting differently without forcing it. You make different choices. You carry yourself with calm. You stop over-explaining. You stop chasing. Why? Because in your inner world, it's already done. You're already living in. Your actions flow naturally from that new state. It becomes effortless because the outer world is just catching up to what you've already accepted as true inside. That's the transformation Neville talked about. Not just changing what you do, but changing where you live inside, moving into a new version of you, claiming the identity of someone who is already there, someone who doesn't need to try so hard because they're not trying to get anywhere. They've already arrived. And that arrival happens the moment you assume it. The moment you say within, this is who I am now, the mirror starts to shift. Maybe not all at once, maybe not in obvious ways, but the ripple begins. People treat you differently. Opportunities show up. You begin to attract, not chase. You feel stronger, not because anything changed outside, but because you chose a better story to live in. Neville reminded us over and over that imagination and assumption are not weak ideas. They are the fabric of all creation. You are not separate from the life you want. The only gap is your belief that it's still far away. Close that gap with assumption, with feeling, with faith. And the world, as always, will respond accordingly. Let this settle in. You are not becoming, you already are. You are not trying, you are assuming. You are not chasing, you are living in the end. And from that place, everything changes. What's truly powerful about Neville's message is that you don't need permission to start telling a new story. You don't have to wait for someone to believe in you. You don't even have to fix everything in your outer world first. All transformation begins when you stop reacting to what is and start responding to what could be within. People often say, I'll believe it when I see it. But Neville flips that idea completely. He says, you'll see it when you believe it. The world doesn't create your beliefs. Your beliefs shape the world. So if your internal narrative is filled with doubt, fear, and limitation, the mirror of life will show you people, events, and outcomes that confirm those very things. But the moment you rewrite that story, even if nothing has changed yet, you've started the process of a new reality unfolding. It might come slowly or suddenly, but it will come. That's why you have to be so careful with how you speak to yourself. Not just in words, but in feeling. When you wake up in the morning, are you telling yourself the same tired script? Or are you starting to live mentally in a story that uplifts, empowers, and expands you? Neville reminds us that nothing changes until you change your inner assumptions. It doesn't matter how much effort you put in if your core identity is still rooted in lack. You can work hard, stay busy, do all the right things, and still feel stuck because your outer effort will always bow to your inner belief. That's why the work is within. It's not about controlling outcomes. It's about mastering the state you live from. The state of knowing, the state of being, the state of already having what you desire, not someday, but now. Even if just internally at first, this is not denial. This is alignment. It's choosing to let your inner world lead rather than your circumstances. It's not being fake. It's being faithful to the vision that already exists within you. The mirror doesn't reflect what's real. It reflects what's assumed. If you assume success, the mirror bends. If you assume peace, the world softens. If you assume you are loved, people begin to treat you that way. Not because they changed, but because your story did. And here's something that might surprise you. It's not about thinking positively all the time. It's about assuming from the right identity. You can have bad days, you can feel doubt. But if your dominant assumption is rooted in faith, life will keep pulling you forward. Even your setbacks will begin to serve the new story. That's the power of the state you choose. You are never stuck. You're never too late. The story can be rewritten the moment you decide. Think about how many people live their lives waiting for someone or something outside of them to give them permission to feel whole, worthy, or happy. They chase validation, applause, relationships, even money, thinking these things will finally convince them that they matter. But Neville reveals a much more empowering truth. All of these external experiences are only echoes of your self-concept. You don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. And who you are is not just defined by your actions, but by your assumptions, your expectations, and the quiet inner story you repeat when no one's listening. Most of that story is unconscious. It was shaped by your past, your culture, the opinions of others. But here's the truth that sets you free. You can rewrite it at any moment, not with force, but with awareness, with choice. You decide which story gets your energy now. You choose the new state to live from, and that choice becomes your new signal to life. The world is not punishing you or rewarding you. It's simply mirroring you. It's not responding to your words, it's responding to the way you feel about yourself, the identity you've claimed, and the assumptions you return to every day. That's why some people who say very little, who do less chasing, seem to effortlessly receive. It's because they're not begging life to give them what they desire. They've assumed it's already done. They're not looking for proof. They're living from the proof, inwardly. Neville's method was not about daydreaming or forcing thoughts. It was about fully occupying a new state of being. That's why he used the phrase living from the end. When you walk through your day as if you already have the thing you once longed for, the world has no choice but to catch up, not because you manipulated it, but because you aligned with it. This is where imagination becomes sacred. Not just fantasy, but the workshop of your future. When you imagine from the end, not about it, you condition your mind and body to believe. You start to feel the relief, the joy, the peace of your desire fulfilled. And when that becomes familiar, it becomes reality. So many people wait for the mirror to smile before they smile. But life isn't like that. The mirror only reflects. It cannot initiate. You must choose to smile first. You must choose to believe first. You must become the version of yourself that already has the outcome, and let that be your inner dwelling place. It may feel strange at first. Your senses might argue with you. Your circumstances might contradict it. But if you persist, something shifts. Subtly, silently, but powerfully, a new world begins forming, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. You don't have to force this change. Just feel it. Let it be natural. Let the inner conversations you have match your desired outcome. Let your reactions begin to change. Let your decisions be based on who you are becoming, not who you used to be. And the mirror your life will follow. The world around you isn't random. It's not chaotic. It's a perfect mirror, silently reflecting the story you're telling yourself every day. Whether you're aware of it or not, life is echoing the assumptions you hold, the identity you live from, and the conversations you repeat inside your mind. Neville Goddard understood this deeply. He taught that if you want to change your world, you must first change the story you're telling yourself about who you are and what you believe you deserve. The moment you begin to take your inner world seriously, everything begins to shift. Neville said, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. That statement isn't symbolic, it's literal. Most people live reactively, responding to circumstances and calling it fate. But fate, as Neville saw it, is self-authored. Your reality is not happening to you, it's unfolding from you. Imagine waking up each day and rehearsing a script of lack, doubt, and powerlessness. I'm not enough. I always fail. They never choose me. These thoughts feel casual, even harmless, but they are the roots of your visible life. They quietly become instructions to the mirror, and the mirror never lies. It simply reflects. It doesn't argue. It doesn't judge. It shows you what you assume. But here's the breakthrough. Assumptions can be changed. And when they are, everything around you changes too. You don't have to fight the world. You only need to adjust the story playing in your mind. It's not always easy. Old stories have momentum. They cling, but they aren't permanent. Neville emphasized that your inner conversations shape your outer conditions. He called it the mental diet. Just as your physical body is shaped by what you eat, your reality is shaped by the thoughts and feelings you consistently feed your mind. If you want to live a better life, don't start with your schedule. Start with your self-concept. This isn't about pretending. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about selecting the identity that aligns with your vision and choosing to live from it, even before there is physical evidence. Neville called this living from the end. That means assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not wishing for something, not hoping, but embodying it now internally. Let's say you want to feel confident or loved or successful. Neville wouldn't tell you to hustle until you make it true. He would ask you to pause, go within and ask yourself, what would it feel like if it were already done? What would I think? How would I act? What would I no longer worry about? That is the state you begin to occupy. When you live from that state long enough, the world has no choice but to mirror it back. You'll notice people treating you differently. Opportunities will appear. Synchronicities will arise. Not because you manipulated the outside, but because the inside has shifted. One of Neville's most powerful insights is that states are temporary, but the self is real. You are not stuck in any one condition. Depression, fear, scarcity, these are states, not identities. You can move out of them, and you move by assuming a new concept of self. You don't fight the old state, you simply withdraw attention from it and occupy the new one. And this is where imagination becomes key. To Neville, imagination wasn't child's play. It was divine. It was how you spoke directly to life. He said imagination is God. That means your ability to see, feel, and believe inwardly is your most powerful tool for transformation. You don't need to wait for things to change. You create the change by first imagining it as already real. That's why even a few minutes of focused imagination, done consistently, is more powerful than hours of effort based on fear or doubt. In your imagination, you rehearse the life you desire. You feel it, you see it, you embody it, and then you carry that feeling into the world. Neville was clear, feeling is the secret. It's not just what you think, it's what you feel as true. That's why you must guard your inner talk. Speak to yourself as someone you believe in, not with arrogance, but with assurance. Be kind in your assumptions. Be bold in your identity. Tell the story of the person you are becoming. Even when things don't look different yet, stay faithful to the new story. Faith is not pretending. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality you've chosen. It's trusting the mirror will catch up. It always does. You don't need perfect circumstances to begin. Begin with what you have. Begin with who you are. Begin with the story you want to live. Whisper it. Believe it. Feel it. Let it echo louder than your fears. Let it speak through your actions. Eventually, the mirror of life has to reflect it. Remember, you are not a victim of the world. You are the author of your reality. You write the story, the mirror simply reflects, and that means your breakthrough isn't far away. It isn't something you chase, it's something you claim now, in this moment, with this breath. You are already closer than you think. Change the story, and the world will change with it.